Welcome to Into the Woo, a wellness podcast hosted by Alice Hu. I'll be exploring the world of crystals, energy healing, spirit guides, and more to help you understand how they can unlock your potential. These concepts have helped me discover my purpose and my truth, and I can't wait to hear how they will inspire you. I'll show you how they can be accessible and powerful tools in your life. When you think of the word abundance, what comes up for you? 9 out of 10 times, everyone's always saying money. And it's very natural to connect abundance directly to money, but abundance also applies to many other things, like an abundance of time and other types of resources. Coming back to money, so money is energy. It is a currency of energy, and you can always feel when, as an example, a company has more marketing dollars. You just see their ads everywhere on, Netflix, at the bus stop, at grocery stores, on social media, all over. And so money is really a way to amplify. If you've never really thought about money as energy, it's definitely confusing, which is why I'm excited to have a conversation with my mentor, Susy Schieffelin. She is a sound healer, a sobriety coach, among many other things, and she's based out of Santa Monica, California. And she shares her experiences about money, her money mindset, how she shifted her beliefs around money to create the successful business that she has today that is also spiritually aligned. Now, I worked with Susy last year, but we've known each other for many years. I actually know Susy through her sister Elizabeth, and we had met in Shanghai many years ago when I began to be very curious about sound healing and wanted to buy bowls and learn more about this healing modality. I reached out to Susy, and she was so helpful all those years ago. And when we had the opportunity to work together last year, it was a very transformative experience. Every time I work with a mentor, every time I learn a new modality, a new tool to help me in this journey, it's just so wonderful, so insightful. I learn a lot about myself, and I gain insights to help others along their healing journey, along their spiritual path. And I really credit Susy as the reason why I started meditating every single day. Before then, it was kind of a couple times a week. It wasn't very consistent, but I knew once the pandemic started, I needed to do more for myself. And so it's kind of right place, right time. You needed the help. And so the universe sent that person your way, and Susy was that person for me. So in this episode, we're really candid about our experiences with money and how, when we spend money, it really shifts us into a new version of ourselves. But it's definitely really scary. I remember the first time I invested in yoga teacher training. It was kind of like the most amount of money I'd spent on a training in a very long time. It was scary, but it also felt right. I was excited about it, and I knew that it was something that I wanted for myself. But then ultimately, it became something that I shared with others. So super excited to be talking about all things money, energy, and how to build a spiritually aligned business and what that means. Even if you don't have a business, I think that you're going to find a lot of great pieces of wisdom on this episode. All right, Susy, I'd love for you to share your story with the podcast community.
Thank you so much for having me, Alice. I am so excited to be here with you today. I absolutely adore you and your work and everything that you share. As you know, my name is Susy Markoe Schieffelin. I am the founder of The Copper Vessel. I am based in Santa Monica, California, and I am a crystal alchemy sound healer, a Reiki master, a Kundalini yoga teacher, and a mentor to other spiritually aligned entrepreneurs who are interested in building their own six-figure business. It's been an incredible journey, and I'm so excited to be on here today with you and to have the opportunity to share it.
Thank you so much, Susie. And before we dive into the topic today of energy is money, can you share a little bit about sound healing? I've shared with the community, but I would love for you to explain how you got into sound healing and why it's such a powerful healing modality for you.
Sound is pure creative potential. Sound is everything. Everything is energy, everything is frequency. And so when we can consciously work with sound, we really have the power to create incredible change within ourselves and within the world around us. I personally got on this path because sound helped me so very much on my own personal healing journey. Looking back, I can see how from a very young age, sound has been a big part of my life, from learning to play the piano and the violin and singing when I was young. And I was always interested in languages. And then in my late 20s, I found myself in a really dark place. I was struggling incredibly with alcoholism and addiction. I felt very, very disconnected from myself and very misaligned in pretty much all areas of my life. And I took time away from the world and I went to a 30-day rehab treatment center where I had the opportunity to experience music therapy. And the way that I experienced it there was different than the way that I share sound healing today, but it was really my first time consciously working with sound to heal. And I just listened to music and sang along with it and allowed it to evoke emotion within me. And it did. And it opened up a lot. And then when I got back into the world and started my life and my journey into sobriety, I began exploring different modalities for healing, mindfulness through meditation, through yoga. And then I moved across the country to California. At the time I was working in New York City and living in Greenwich, Connecticut with my parents after getting out of rehab. And I made the journey, which felt really scary. I moved across the country to Santa Monica and was experiencing a lot of anxiety. I was very much in the early stages of my healing journey, very much in the early stages of sobriety and trying to really hold on for dear life. And there were periods during that time when I had panic attacks every day. And when I got out here to California, my aunt took me to a sound bath. And it was so funny because she just said, let's go to a sound bath. And I didn't even ask her what it was, which now that I've been sharing this for some time, most people wonder, they're like, what is a sound bath? Is there water involved? Do I need to take my clothes off? What is this thing? But I was just like, oh yeah, of course, a sound bath. And we went to a beautiful sound bath in Los Feliz, led by my dear friend Arlene. And it was life-changing. And at the same time, it was also so incredibly simple. All I did was lie down and listen. And as I listened, I began to relax and I began to feel this sense of calm and sort of like I had come home to myself. It, for a time in that first experience, felt like I had almost left my body. It was like I was just somewhere else and didn't feel burdened by the busyness of my mind, all of the thoughts, all of the worries, all of the fears, all of the anxieties that had been plaguing me for so many years. They just melted away. And, after the sound bath, they came back and my mind returned to normal. But something shifted and I felt a little bit calmer and I felt a little bit more open. And I went to another sound bath and I went to another sound bath and I went to another sound bath. And my life began to transform incredibly after having struggled to get sober for years. Even before going to rehab, I had been trying to get sober and I couldn't get it to stick. Suddenly, I wasn't interested in the pills. I wasn't interested in the drugs. I had removed alcohol from my life for a year at that point, but true sobriety and it started to land, it started to ground and the light started to come back into my eyes. I was able to start making and holding on to healthy daily practices like meditation and taking care of myself. And my anxiety got better. That doesn't mean that it was gone altogether. And that doesn't mean that even today, sometimes it comes up, but I have this sense of spaciousness and groundedness within myself that has been opened and integrated through the work that I've done with sound. So after attending sound baths for a few months and noticing really incredible shifts in the way that I felt, I thought, I need to learn this. And I went to a breathwork sound bath one night at Unplugged Meditation where I ended up eventually getting to teach. And at the end of the experience, I went up to the facilitator, this wonderful man, Guy Douglas, and I said, I need to learn this. And he said, I'll teach you. So I started learning to play the gong with him, and I would come to his sound baths and I would help assist. I would help him set up, and he played bowls on the gong and I would play his second gong. And I just witnessed and I observed and I learned. And after about 6 months, I really felt like I wanted to step into it fully. And I was terrified. I'd had a corporate job. It was the same job that I had in New York City. I'd been working at that company for about 4 years. And I was really good at it. They loved me. It was a lot of fun. But the more that I got clear on my truth and who I was, the more that I was feeling it just wasn't in alignment with my spirit. The job that I was doing was service based. So I was helping people, but I was like, I know I can help people on a deeper level. And I know that I can share this incredible transformation that I'm experiencing with other people who might be feeling lost or stuck or struggling too. So I was feeling like I wanted to leave my job, but I was really scared. I had no background in business or no idea how to become an entrepreneur. And one day, after finishing an amazing book, which I recommend always in my mentorships, it's like the first book that I tell anyone to read, The Surrender Experiment by Michael A. Singer. I finished it and I just said out loud, I surrender. I said, put me on my path. And literally within hours, I got a phone call from the company I'd been working for that made it very clear that the time to say goodbye had arrived. And I was very scared, but I made that choice. And I remember I got off that phone call and I called my mom and I was like, Mom, I quit my job. I'm leaving. I'm a healer now. And she was like, what? She was like, Susie, no, it's much easier to find a job when you have a job. You should don't make such a rash decision. And I was like, no, Mom, I'm not going to find another job. I'm going to start a business. This is a new path that I'm stepping into. And she just said, okay. And at that point, I didn't even own my own crystal bowls. Like I literally I had one frosted bowl. The note was E for the solar plexus that I gotten on Amazon. And that was it. And so I contacted Arlene, who had been to her first sound bath. And I said, where did you get your beautiful, colorful alchemy bowls? And she referred me to Geraldine Glass, who became another mentor of mine. And we eventually went on to lead trainings together. And I went down and I met Geraldine and I used my savings. And I was so scared. It felt like such a big investment. But I bought my first 3 crystal alchemy bowls. And from there, everything began to change and shift and open up. And yeah, that was how I started my business. I feel like I just went on for so long. I'm not even sure what the first question you asked was.
No, that's just such a powerful story. And I think that with so much detail, it's so helpful for people who haven't started on their journey yet or want to take that leap. A lot of times people gloss over their experience. It's kind of, it almost seems like magic. I was at point A and now I'm at point B and everything has changed. But it's like, well, what happened like from point A to point B? And I think that, where you stopped in your story about, buying your first set of bowls is a wonderful segue into today's topic about energy and money. I know that you've told me that, when you bought these bowls, it was a huge investment, like a crazy investment. And so I want you to share about that experience and, was it scary for you to spend the money? And talk about, how that investment has come back to you.
It was so scary. I remember just being like, what? I mean, it was more than I'd ever spent on anything in my life. I mean, before that, I'd invested in school, I paid money to go to rehab, but it was more expensive than a computer. My first 3 bowls that I got cost almost $3,000, and that was my savings. And it was like, I don't have a job. I don't have any income right now. And yet I'm going to make this huge investment, but I know that it's what I need to do in order to get to where I know I need to be. And in doing that, like I said, so much opened up.
Mm. And so with this first investment, I know you said that it was a couple $1,000s, but it really was the basis of your business, right? It really started everything. I know that when you tell your story, when you've told it to me, it seems like that point was really when everything started to fall into place. And that was that leap that you made. And that was represented by money, that you were making a statement through money, through the energy of money to say, I am ready. I'm ready to step into a new life, a new way of serving. And so, can you explain a little bit more about energy and money? I know that people probably like, I don't understand. Like, what do you mean? Like, money is energy? And I'm confused. What does that mean?
Absolutely. No, and it's so true. It's a confusing thing. And I didn't have any understanding of that when I was doing this, and looking back, I'm like, oh, it all makes sense to me now. But I remember feeling like, yeah, I didn't have a good relationship with money, not at all. And as you said, money is energy. It's a currency of energy. And so everything is energy, and energy needs to flow. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, but it can change forms. And so when we share money, it becomes an exchange in a way of really allowing energy to flow. And in the way that I bought my bowls, it sent this powerful message to the universe where it was like, I'm all in. I'm making this investment in myself. And it's the law of attraction, right? So like what you put out is what you get back. And I see I see a lot of people that I work with. And I myself used to be in this scarcity mindset where I would really try to like make it work or find a discount or find a good deal. But it's like, if you're looking for a discount or a deal, that's the energy you're putting out, right? So, like, if you're really committed to something and you're committed to laying a solid foundation, and this is not to say that like you should never find a discount because, sometimes things are on sale and that's wonderful, but it's really like the intention with which you're doing it. And for me, it was like, this feels like a big stretch. It feels like a scary stretch, and it feels like an up leveling. And I'm going to send this message to the universe that I will go all in for myself. I will do what it takes. And I'm not going to settle for a starter set of bowls that maybe is less expensive, but isn't what feels exactly aligned and lights me up and so inspired to share my gifts. I'm going to say yes to this thing that feels like the scariest, but most expansive and exciting possibility for myself. And the energetic investment of money confirms that. And, when I started to share sound baths, I saw that returned very quickly. Just in the level that, because I held myself to that high frequency of the energy that I invested in buying these really exquisite bowls, these exquisite instruments. And what comes with that level of
Commitment.
completely, exactly, that level of commitment that like, I am here, I'm showing up, and like I'm putting myself out there, I'm going all in. And then when people feel that, they rise to meet that, right? So like they rise to meet that from within themselves. Like, it doesn't feel good to settle. It doesn't feel good to have to like bargain or have to like try to make it work. That feels very different than when you're like, yeah, I'm going to show up fully as my fullest self because I believe in myself and I deserve to live my most authentic expression of who I am. And so when people are in my sound baths, that's the energy that they're receiving. Like, I believe in you because I believe in myself. And you're receiving these healing vibrations of the bowls that are transmitting, like, you don't have to settle in life. Anything you can dream of is possible. Yes, it might feel scary. Yes, it might seem impossible, but you are an infinite being. Like, you have infinite possibilities within yourself. And truly, if you can dream it, it can be so. It's already yours. And I mean, one of the things that I've learned in studying the law of attraction is that the universe doesn't know the difference between $1 and $1,000,000. If you decide that you're aligning yourself with the frequency of $1,000,000, everything in the universe will conspire to make that happen for you. But it's really a matter of believing that it's possible. And so for me, in that moment, making that first investment, it was like, am I worthy of $3,000 of bowls? Or do I have to settle again? You know? And I believed that I was, and I held myself to that frequency. And ever since then, I've continued to raise that and raise the bar. And every time it feels scary and every time it feels like a stretch. And by continuing to up level into higher versions of myself. I mean, I've seen real miracles happen in my life and in the lives of the people that I work with.
And so in this case, actually all cases, money is really a tool for accountability.
I love that.
Because you and I know this, when we offer something for free, it's like 30-40% show up.
Mm-hmm.
But when we charge for something, like 99% shows up. And I think that's the easiest example to share with people if they don't understand the intention and power behind investing money in whatever it may be, from something small like a meal, to the groceries that you buy for yourself on a weekly basis, to um, a training, or a different type of experience.
Mm-hmm. Yes, exactly. And again, it comes back to money being energy, and energy needs to flow. It needs to flow and it needs to be an exchange. And so it's the kind of thing where you can think about it like, if someone does a favor for you, or if someone's constantly doing like really, really nice things for you, you start feeling like, I need to do something for this person. Like, I need to repay them. Like, okay, now I need to start giving them gifts. But like, I don't know how I could ever match the level of what they're doing for me because they haven't expressed it. Right. So, money, by being a currency of energy, allows us to put a tangible sort of way of working with the energy that's being exchanged. So if I'm saying like my sound bath is $55, I'm saying it's a very valuable experience that you're getting. And if you were to come to that sound bath and not offer the exchange of energy that is $55, you're going to show up and you might feel like either the experience wasn't complete, or you need to now like send me a gift or an email or something to like align yourself with the energy, or you're not going to show up at all because it doesn't feel aligned. You're like, something's off. Why is this sound bath like for free?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that another example is, if someone closed their eyes right now and they kind of visualize and really feel in their body, what does it mean to make an investment of $55 to go to a sound bath? Like, how does that feel? And then what does it mean if you spend $100 for a sound bath? And then what
Mhm.
does it mean to spend $500? Like, I'm like, wait, this is very interesting. As I like make up this exercise, I'm like, Susie, can you host a sound bath for $500 for $100? Like, what would that look like? And then I think to myself, like, if I did something like that, like, what would that be? Like, what would I be able to create? Because if we're creating for that specific dollar amount of exchange, it's going to feel really different than
Mhm.
something that is much less or much more.
Yeah, it's true. And I mean, as I've over the years shifted my prices, increased my prices, looked at the way that the pricing is for my offerings, I always think about that. Like, how would I show up for this session if the exchange were $50? How would I show up for this session if the exchange were $500? Right. And so I always show up as my best self. That's something that I'm committed to. And so if I don't feel like my best self is energetically aligned with a $50 exchange, it's not going to serve the person. But like if I'm charging what's aligned, I am going to be there. You're going to receive the most powerful experience possible that I can give you. I'm going to be early. I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to be giving you my heart and my soul because I'm committed to matching that energetic exchange. Right. So, like, you get what you pay for.
Yes, you do get what you pay for. And it's been the last few years that I've realized, what you shared earlier is like, you know what? I don't think I want that discount. Or, I'm going to buy something really nice for myself because this is what I deserve. I just bought myself that new Aesop fragrance that came out. I think it was like last fall, maybe late summer. That's called Rosu. It's a rose perfume.
Beautiful.
It
And
smells really nice, but, it's up there. It's like it's probably within, like, the top echelons of perfumes you could get.
yeah, and that's a big investment. And I'm sure that every time you spray it on yourself, you feel luxurious and you feel like you deserve that and you feel abundant and you feel like the beautiful, fragrant rose that you are, right?
I feel rich.
Yeah.
I feel
And so
rich when I spray that.
that's the energy that you're aligning yourself with. That's what you're then going to attract.
Yes. And so anyone who's confused about energy, like, what does this mean? What do they mean when they say everything has its own frequency, its own vibration, its own energy? Like, that's what I mean. Like, buying like a perfume from CVS and then buying a perfume from Aesop or Lalabo.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's like, how do you feel? And I remember the first time that I had an understanding of energy. I was pretty young. I think I was 12 and I was in a yoga class and I was guided to go into Warrior Two, stretching my arms out. And she said, feel the energy flowing into the tips of your fingers. And up until that point in my life, the only way that I ever thought of energy was like caffeine. Like, oh, well, if I drink a coffee or if I drink a soda, I'm going to get a lot of energy. I didn't realize that like I could work with energy and I could transmute energy and that I was energy. Energy was within me, like literally within me.
Yes.
I made of that. And so if you're new to this language, if it sounds confusing or woo woo to you, yeah, it's really as simple as that. Everything is energy. And when you start to pay attention to the way that energy flows, you tap into the secrets of the universe. I mean, Nikolai Tesla said that. He said, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
And that's one of my favorite quotes because it's truly something that you have to feel and you have to pay attention to. You have to become very aware to pick up on, how the world and the universe works. It's very easy to not be aware of this. But then once you start paying attention, you're like, oh, wow, I can't believe I never knew this before. It's very, very cool. It's very eye opening. So just start paying attention to these very small things, bringing awareness to the small things in your life of how does it make you feel when you buy the thing that you want, or when you buy something that's discounted or settling, or that doesn't feel right. It doesn't mean that you buy something and it's on sale that it feels awful. Sometimes, a lot of times, you're like, that's great. I got a deal. It feels
Totally.
energetically aligned.
Absolutely. And again, it's not to say that you should never buy anything discounted or on sale because that's not it. It's more like how does it feel for you? Like how does it feel for you? It may be on sale and it's still a big investment for you, a stretch that like feels like a really big up leveling to be able to invest in this for yourself. That's amazing. And you can also think about it in terms of people, right? So like there may be certain people that when you're around them, you don't feel good. You feel off. You notice yourself getting into a weird, funky mood, or it doesn't feel good. And then there may be other people in your life that every time you're around them, it feels really good. That is energy, and that's your frequency as it resonates with their frequency, which is a concept in sound healing. We're working with how different energies resonate with each other. And
Mhm.
so you are, without even realizing it, you're more intuitive than you know. And just allowing yourself to be guided by, like you said, Alice, what feels good and letting that be the guide, what really aligns with you and where you want to go. It's going to be a really powerful practice. And basically, I mean, it's the basics of energy work.
And I'd love for you to share the other types of investments you've made since that very first one, of a couple $1,000s for those sound bowls. And it's almost like a game, right? You're like, oh, I spent that. That felt good, and now it feels like I need to like up level. And what does that look like? And maybe even which investments felt very profound for you or very scary, but it always pays off. But I think when you're making that decision, when you're in the moment, it feels difficult.
Mm. It feels difficult. And it's like this voice inside me that's like, yes, Susie, like this will take you to the next level. Like this feels aligned. And that's not for every investment, right? So, like, just because something's expensive doesn't mean you should buy it. But if it's something that feels aligned for you and you say yes to it, even though it feels scary, that's a major shift. And I want to speak into, even before this, like the fact that my relationship with money wasn't always good. Like I definitely, for most of my life, existed in a scarcity mindset where, I was not willing to invest in myself. I wasn't comfortable treating myself, but then sometimes I would. And I would sort of go on these like little binges and I would buy the thing that I really wanted for a long time or the thing that I needed. And then I would get these credit card bills and I would let them build up and I didn't want to pay them. So I would sort of like have this lingering energy over me of like, I owe money, I owe money, I owe money. And I would have, you know, I would have to be bailed out. So healing my relationship with money began by saying like, okay, I need to bring consciousness, awareness, and transparency and to look at like how much do I actually have? And within that, what can I actually spend? So it can feel like a stretch to invest, but like I'm not suggesting that people go into debt over things either. So as I began investing in myself, I had savings. I was leaving my corporate job. I made that first investment in the crystal bowls. I then invested in my first mentor. And that was another thing that felt scary. And I was like, am I going to get value for this? What am I going to get out of it? I invested in working with, he was a psychic medium. And I had been going to his channeling circles for like a year. And after one circle, he came to me and he was like, I'd love to teach you. Like, I'd love to take you deeper in your journey. And I had shared with him, that I was starting my own business. And he was like, I'd love to support you in that. And so I invested, I think it was like $2,225, so around $2,200 in working with him for 6 weeks. And that felt like a big stretch. I had not ever paid one individual that much money to study with them and to have sessions with them. And, over those 6 weeks, a lot shifted for me, a lot changed, a lot opened up. I learned a lot about energy. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about life. And when that mentorship concluded, I took a few minutes and then I invested in a yoga teacher training, my first yoga teacher training. And again, it felt like a big stretch. It was like not just a stretch for money, but a stretch for time. I was like, I'm starting my own business. I need to be dedicating my time to earning money. And yet I'm going to be using time to be learning to be a yoga teacher. And yet I also know it's going to support my business. And it felt incredibly aligned. And so I said, yes. And I made that investment. And in that yoga teacher training, there was several teachers and we had guest teachers too. And one of them, every time she came in to teach, I would cry. Like it was like she touched something in my soul. And she just was the embodiment of this empowered goddess who truly stood in her power and also radiated unconditional love. Her name's Kristen. And she ended up being my next mentor. And I mentored with her for a year. And she taught me, I did a few Reiki trainings with her. I did my Reiki master trainings with her. I learned pregnancy yoga with her. I learned restorative yoga with her. I learned Kundalini yoga with her. And I learned by observation how to run a spiritually aligned business from a place of integrity. And that was a really beautiful experience working with her. And then after that, I invested in a couple different mentors. And I would say the next thing that felt really scary and like a stretch for me was going on a retreat. My first yoga retreat, I remember going on, it was a weekend and I think it was $550. And it was that same thing. It was like, I can't afford to take time off work. I can't afford this yoga retreat, but I know I need to go. And I made the investment and so much opened up. And then just a few years later, it was like, now I'm making an even bigger investment to go to India, to study in India. And so it's like every time I invested in myself, it opened up the next level. And with that next level, it opened up a pathway for me to generate more abundance for myself. So as I was investing in the crystal bowls, and then I invested in my first couple mentors and yoga teacher training, the first 6 months of my business, I was barely making any money. I had started leading sound baths on the beach, and I started teaching classes at a couple of studios, and I would do privates here and there. But there was, most weeks I was making $75 to $150 a week and relying on my savings for my other expenses. And it felt, again, scary. It felt like, what am I doing? What if this fails? But in my heart, I knew that I would do whatever it took to make it succeed. And so I continued to show up. I continued to invest in myself. I continued to just be of service and build the foundation of my business, which looked like, making it legal and creating an LLC, hiring a lawyer to help me make sure that everything was done by the books. It looked like creating a website, getting a logo, creating a budget, starting to really look at my finances and not just personally, but professionally, what I could spend and look at it from a place of like, I need to spend money in order to set myself up for success with my business, and I don't like the word budget as much because it feels restrictive to me, but like a spending plan. So I can spend with intention, not overspend beyond my means, but like I can afford to invest this much in my website, or I can afford to invest that much in a mentor or a coach. And so I started moving throughout my life more intentionally and with more consciousness. And my pattern of racking up a credit card bill and then getting bailed out, I started to break free of it. I would pay my credit card bill every month. I wouldn't let it get built up. I started taking note of every expense that I had. So when I bought food, I would keep track of it. When I had an office supply expense or an event expense for a business, I would keep track of it. I got rid of the vagueness because that was a big thing for me, was like, I don't really know. I think it'll work out. I'm just going to buy this thing and hopefully it'll work out. But like bringing clarity and intention to every dollar I spent and blessing it, like making purchases with the energy of like, I bless this money. This is opening up something for me, for my business, for what's possible. I'm not going to spend feeling guilty. I'm not going to spend feeling bad about it. I'm going to spend knowing that I can spend this money and that I'm investing it and it's going to come back. And it did. And about 6 months into my business, I started making money. And yeah, I started to get regular clients and I started to sell packages and I started to offer 3-month transformational programs. And my classes were getting bigger and bigger and I was making more money with people coming and then people wanting to work with me. And it felt really exciting and it felt really good. And I would set a goal for myself each month. And then most months I would exceed that goal. And then I would raise my goal. And it was amazing. Like it took time for me to see my investments pay off, but they did. And at this point, my investments have come back tenfold. And I continue to invest in myself and it continues to feel scary. That first mentor that I worked with, who was a couple $1,000s, felt so scary at the time. And, this past year I've spent a lot of money investing in mentors, and in order to work with mentors who are on a really, really high level and who can really help me to up level and see things that I'm not able to see on my own. And that's the biggest thing, is like, you can only see what you can see and you only know what you know. And to have someone who can hold space for you and to guide the way, to say like, this is what worked for me, this is what didn't, to share the resources that they have from their toolbox because they're a few steps further along on the path than you are. It's invaluable. And looking back in the periods when I didn't have a mentor actively in my business, those were times where I learned the hard way. And we all have to learn the hard way to some extent. It's just part of the process, but not having to waste time and energy on things that don't have to be, you don't have to waste time and energy on because you have someone who can shine a flashlight. It's been incredible. So yeah, that's sort of my journey in investing.
And do you find that you work with mentors like pretty consistently, like all the time, or is it maybe you do it for a couple months and you take a break for a little bit, or it's something feels a little bit more continuous?
At this point, I'm always interested in working with a mentor or a coach of some sort. So right now, I'm in a group women's container program, which is more for personal, but also for professional development. It's, yoga of intimacy and embodiment. And it's an incredible program where I get to connect with other women and have a community, and also with, teachers and mentors within the program that I look up to and respect. And that's more for educational and personal development purposes, which contribute to the success of my business. And then I've worked consistently with a business coach now for almost a year. And I just started working with a new coach, and I didn't take a break. Like I wrapped up with one coach one day and I started with the next coach the next day. And that was just because I knew that I was ready to keep up leveling, and I was ready to bring in new energy and new wisdom and new perspective to where I'm at. That doesn't necessarily have to be the case for everyone. Sometimes it is really important to take some time to integrate and digest. I think about, it's like you eat a big meal, you need to digest it, and then you need to release it. And so that process is important. And I will say that for me, I find it really helpful to be in a container, to be held, to know that like, if something comes up, I have someone to reach out to. If I have a question, I know where to go. I have a sense of accountability. I have a sense of support because being an entrepreneur,
it's tough.
It's tough. You're like on your own. You don't have coworkers. You don't have an office to go to. You don't have a boss to look up to. And especially in the first few years where you're kind of figuring it out, it's really valuable to feel held, you know? And it also takes the pressure off your friends and family because in the times when I don't have certain mentors, like in certain areas of my life, like maybe I'll end up like emotionally dumping on my mom or on a friend when it's like, that's not how I want that relationship to be for. Like I can bring that to a therapist and then I can show up to my mom, to my fiance, to my friends from a place of feeling clear, you know, and how can I be a friend to you? And that's not to say like you can't have your friends be there for you, but to do it really cleanly,
with
you
good
know,
boundaries.
With good boundaries, it's important. And being an entrepreneur will bring up all the things. It will bring up all the things.
It really does. I really say that entrepreneurship is a test of the mind, fortitude. It's really just your mindset. Success is mindset. Whether you're an entrepreneur or anything else, it's just your mindset. And having someone there, you know, whatever the support system looks like, whether it's a circle of people that come together, you know, every single month for accountability and you don't need to pay anything, you know, it's more of community, or it's investing in a mentor. Like you have to have a support system, whether you're an entrepreneur or just like, you know, a working professional, that you can connect with people who kind of share like the same highs and lows.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's interesting I was on a call with my mentees last night. I have a group mentorship program right now. And one of them was sharing, you know, that she's so grateful for our group because she lives in a space where most of the people, her friends, her family are not entrepreneurs, and they're certainly not spiritual entrepreneurs, and they don't get it. And they're like, you should definitely keep your day job, stay safe. Like, we don't know what you're doing, but good luck with it. Hope it works out. And she was like, and then I get to come here to this group and I get to see what's possible. And I get to know that I am on the right path and I get to feel inspired and aligned and I get to share what's in my heart. And I don't feel like I have to hide it. I can just show up and align with the consciousness of these other inspiring entrepreneurs who get it, you know? And then she goes back into her life and it's like, okay, mom, it's totally fine. You don't need to understand what I'm doing. Just wait and see. And that's how it was for me too. I mean, my family is so incredibly supportive, but they didn't totally get it, you know? And so it's been really important for me to be able to connect with other people who do. And we can speak the same language, so to speak, of being an entrepreneur, of being a teacher, of being a healer, of working with sound. And I can come to my mentors and to my peers in the space for that connection and support.
Absolutely. And I imagine those first 6 months when you weren't making any money, that you had a support system that kind of kept you going. And looking back, you know, you reflect and, oh, it was 6 months. But when you're in it, you had no idea how long it was going to last.
No, I didn't. I really didn't. And so we need cheerleaders. And especially when you're in the space of being a healer, most of the time you've stepped into the space because you're on your own healing journey.
Yes.
And I believe everyone's on a healing journey, right? And the healing journey is never done. And for me, a lot of my journey has been around healing issues of self-worth and self-acceptance and self-love. And so to surround myself with people who can be the cheerleader when the old thought patterns in my mind, which are, Susy, you can't, Susy, you're not worthy, Susy, you're not good enough, you're stupid, whatever it may be, when all those thoughts come up, because they inevitably do creep back in. And as much as I do my personal meditation practice to create space from those thoughts, sometimes they come up. And then to have people who are like, Susy, you got this, you're doing great, we get it. We know what it's like where you are. You're going to make it through. The abundance is coming. Your investments are going to pay off. Like, just hang on, just keep going.
Yes.
It got me there, you know?
And the only way to get out of a funk like that is to go through it.
And I see a lot of people who get started in the space and then get discouraged. You know, they don't have overnight success. They, like me, invested a lot of money in a yoga teacher training or in buying crystal bowls, and they don't necessarily know how to build their business. And when it doesn't take off right away, You're like, oh shoot, maybe this isn't actually for me. Maybe I'm a failure, or maybe I'm not supposed to do it. Maybe, I should just give up. But it's like,
Yeah,
no,
it's not.
keep
It's not. I think
going. Yeah.
it's the universe testing you. It's your higher self, your soul testing you, like to make sure like, hey, like this is what you want. And so we're going to really make sure. And
Mm,
because you've gone through those lows, when you come out on the other side, like it just feels so much better to know the light, you must know the dark. To know happiness, you must know sadness. There's kind of a yin and a yang to everything.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And so you used a term before, spiritually aligned business. And for those who are like, wait, what does that mean? Can you explain? You operate a spiritually aligned business. How is that different from just having a business?
So that's a really good question and a really good point. I mean it in two senses of the word. So a spiritual line business would be a business in the space potentially of wellness and spirituality. So serving as a healer, serving as a teacher, serving as a guide. That's one way of looking at it. And most of the people who are in my mentorships and that I work with tend to be teachers, healers, coaches of some sort. That's not always the case. I have people who have been in my mentorship who are real estate agents, and they have created a spiritually aligned real estate business. And what that would mean is letting go of the way that so many of us have been taught to run a business, which is hustle, 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 make it happen, figure it out, do it. And recognizing, as we've talked about so much today, that everything is energy. And the more that you align yourself with your highest self and your values, you can effortlessly attract the business that you desire and create it not from a place of hustle, but from a place of alignment. And so, in working with people who have spiritual and business, a lot of what we talk about is masculine and feminine energies. Masculine energy being sort of what I was talking about in my relationship and healing that with money, consciousness, awareness, goal setting, creating structures. So, creating that masculine component to your business, which is how most people that I've seen traditionally run their business, very masculine, do, do, do. And then balancing that with feminine energy, which is energy. It's light, it's love, it's attraction, it's radiance, it's creativity, it's expansion, it's nature. So when you create that masculine structure, the feminine energy can then flow through. And that's where the abundance comes from very effortlessly. And what I see is that a lot of times in the wellness space, people who are yoga teachers or healers, they get very caught up in the feminine and feeling so inspired, so creative, so much energy. They have so much to give, but they can't ground it. They can't manifest the physical currency of money by sharing their offerings in a way that is supported by the masculine. So when I teach people how to create a spiritually aligned business, it's really coming from that place of aligning your business with spiritual principles and spiritual values so that you can effortlessly attract and build your business from a place of alignment without feeling burnt out, but feeling abundant, feeling joyful, feeling free, and feeling in flow. So, like,
Mhm.
as I was talking about, being in that space for me of 6 months, the first 6 months of not earning money, like, I knew because I was aligning myself with the energy that I wanted to eventually create, eventually it would come. But it took me some time, especially after on my own healing journey, years of struggling with self loathing, self doubt, lack of self worth, alcoholism, addiction, people pleasing. It took a lot of healing in that realm for me to truly align my frequency with one of abundance and joy and radiance and love. And the more that I did that, the more that the universe would send it back to me. And that was from that place of spiritual alignment that my business is founded upon.
Yes. And I can definitely attest to how wonderful a mentorship with Susie is. I did a mentorship with her last year and it was very expansive. It was so beautiful. It was really years in the making. And I love the story because, before I knew Susie, I knew her sister Elizabeth when we were both in Shanghai. And just, the universe brought us together years ago when I had my first questions about sound healing. And, Susie has been there for me these last few years. I've explored the space and really dove into sound healing. And then one day I was like, you know what? I think I need a mentor. I think I'm ready for a mentor, another mentor. And of course, like when you are ready for something like that, the universe sends it your way. And then I remembered Susie.
Oh, well, I love you, Allison. It's been such a joy to be a part of your journey and to witness your growth and just all the ways that you share and shine in this world. And it's really incredible. And I'm so grateful. I mean, yeah, our relationship has been very divinely aligned. And I can speak to how incredible your services are as well. And I've had the joy of, experiencing your magic, not only in your sound healing and in your podcast, but when you're business consulting last year, we sat down and we set intentions for my business even before we
Oh,
got together, and all of those intentions came true.
oh my
And so
God. They
I
came true and they came true during a pandemic.
like crazy. The stuff we set was beyond. And and that's another thing about manifesting. Like one of the things we put on was like, I want to do a partnership with a furniture company. And we put down, I think, West Elm. And then I didn't work with West Elm this year, but I created my own furniture line with another company. So it's like
Yeah.
you set intentions and then they manifest in ways that are oftentimes beyond your wildest dreams. And you have such great gifts, Alice, and what you share in the world is so important. And you've been, a teacher for me in so many ways, especially in, letting go of the way that a traditional business relationship or mentorship needs to be. Like, it doesn't need to be that one person is above or further along than the other. It's like, I can share what gifts I have and you can share what gifts you have, and we can support each other, and it's mutually beneficial. And I mean, my intention is always for everyone that I encounter to leave feeling more abundant, more joyful, and more loved than when we first met. And
I always feel that with you, and those are such kind words, and you're always such a source of inspiration and support. And I'm just reminded of how much I love the time that we spent together. And I love seeing your posts now that I'm back on Instagram. And yeah, the work that you do is just so important. I know that it lights me up because it lights you up.
well, I'm so grateful to be on this journey together. And thank you again for having me today. This has been so much fun.
Yes. Oh, and then one last thing. I want you to share your daily rituals very quickly and a mantra that you've been really focusing on lately.
Oh, daily rituals. I have a lot. So right now, what it looks like is I wake up at 5 a.m. I brush my teeth. I get on the Peloton, and I'm a member of the 5 a.m. club. It's an amazing book, and I've been practicing that. So I get on the Peloton. I ride the Peloton for about 20 minutes. I take a shower. I drink water with lemon. And then I sit down and I do what's called a sadhana, which is a daily spiritual practice. And my sadhana is about an hour. Um, I do several different meditations. I chant. Sometimes I meditate in silence. I do breath work. And then I study. I read something inspirational that helps me to connect with the divine, with spirituality, with my true nature and abundance every morning. So I spend, from like 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. focusing on self-care and setting myself up for success for the day. And then at the end of the day, I usually take either a hot bath with magnesium salts or a hot shower. And I do it as an energy ritual to wash the day away, especially working from home right now and being in the virtual space so much. It's really important for me to let go of, the work day and shift really more into my full feminine so that I can be present for my fiance and relax and get a good night's sleep. So starting my day with meditation, exercise, breath work, yoga, and then ending it with that hot shower. And then before bed, I always do a nightly check-in. So I write down, and I text it to a few people. I write down my highlights from the day. I write down any challenges or any resentments I have, any areas of growth. I write down things that I did to be of service. I write down what I'm grateful for, 5 things at least, fully written out. Like, I'm grateful for this, X, blah, 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 because I write down prayers. I write down who I'm praying for, if there's any special prayers that I'm calling in. And I write down 3 affirmations, which are different every night. And then I write down what I'm committed to for the next day. So that's kind of a long nightly routine, but it takes me like 10 minutes.
It's beautiful.
It's really powerful. It's really life changing. And I've done a nightly gratitude practice for almost 6 years, and it's been life changing. And then incorporating those other elements in just brings more intentionality to my life. And when I don't do it, like if there's like I go on vacation or like I skip a night, I actually feel it. I'll feel it the next day or a few
Hmm.
days later.
Yes. And then do you have a mantra or a quote that's really top of mind these days?
I think the biggest one that is sort of my life's motto is that things in life never happen to you. They always happen for you. No. So just always opening to see the lesson or the blessing in every moment.
Talk about the universe sending what you need to you and alignment. I met Susie a couple years ago when I was starting off on my own wellness and healing journey, and very curious about sound baths and sound healing. And she answered all of my questions and sent so many resources to me. And after being able to formally work with her and now having her on the podcast, it just feels, just when I look back on all these experiences, like, oh, wow, like, you know, never could I have imagined all these things unfolding in this way. For myself, I definitely agree with what Susie has shared in terms of changing your money story, your money mindset, and how each time you invest in yourself, it's a very scary feeling. I think that we are conditioned to feel comfortable about spending money on tangible items, things, on vacations, on school, on specific types of trainings, because that's what is acceptable. That is what is familiar. People saying, oh, well, I just spent, a couple $100s on tennis lessons, or I signed up to take a course at a university, or I'm getting, my MBA. Those are all things that are familiar and acceptable. But when you talk about investing in your healing journey, people are like, wait, what are you doing? You're in like a 3-month program to learn more about yourself. Like, it's just not as common, which is why there's not only resistance that comes up, for yourself, but also the people around you. And I know I definitely felt that way. I've invested in myself a couple different times over the last, like, I want to say it's like 3, 4 years. And each time it has definitely felt scary, but it also has felt like the right step moving forward. And once I've made those decisions, I continue to find ways to invest in myself, to learn more, to grow, because whether you're talking about starting a business or your personal or professional life, like, you are the constant. Your energy dictates everything. If you're feeling low vibe, if you're feeling uncertain, if you're feeling anxious, then that's the output. That's going to be what you're calling in. That's what you're going to be producing and sharing. But once you're able to kind of get out of that space, out of that energy, because you are working on yourself, you are healing yourself, you're getting to know yourself better, going inward, accepting, loving yourself, then everything changes. I really believe everything is just a mindset game. And we're constantly being challenged to think differently, to kind of step out of what we once were, to be who we're really meant to be. Just because you started this work doesn't mean that it ends. I constantly do this work every single day because you have to check in with yourself. Your energy fluctuates, external circumstances, external factors affect you. And so it is just so important to check in with yourself. And if you aren't feeling like you're ready to make an investment, there's so many free resources. All healers, all wellness practitioners have something free to offer. There are a lot of resources on YouTube, Clubhouse, which is one of my favorite new social apps to be using, books. So much wisdom in books, and books are so underrated. You can create your own learning curriculum by just checking out a couple of books on Libby, which is this really cool app that I love using, digital library. that you can just check out books for free from your local quote unquote library, really anywhere. And of course, there are Audible, e readers, so many different options out there. And if you ever need a book recommendation, like please text me. I feel like you definitely know my number now, 202-918-3414. But yes, if you want some recommendations, you want a couple different options of how you can do something at X dollar amount or X commitment amount, please let me know because there's always going to be something for you wherever you are. What did you learn from this episode? I would love to know. And do you have any questions about energy, about money, about what a spiritually aligned business is? I'd love to be able to answer these questions for you. I've also linked some business resources in the show notes section, and you can always text me to get those resources as well, like how to create magnetic content on Instagram to attract your ideal client, and some reviews of new social media apps that I've been using. And as always, I offer one on one business mentorships to really help up level your wellness business, whether you're just starting out and trying to figure out, what is my gift? What do I want to share? And how do I put in the systems in place to really help me succeed and create a strong foundation to really build my business? Or you're someone who has a lot of experience, a lot of expertise in what you do, but you're like, oh, like I don't really know how to set up an email marketing campaign. What does it mean to have a content strategy, to have a social strategy? I can help you as well. And I would love to be able to guide you in building your business and attracting more clients to you and allowing you to feel more at ease as you grow your business. If you loved this episode, you think someone could benefit from listening to it, please send it their way. If you haven't rated the podcast 5 stars yet, please do. It is so helpful in people discovering the podcast. And of course, if you want to support the podcast, there is a support button at the bottom of the show notes where you can sign up for a monthly donation. I would so appreciate it. And if you have any suggestions, anything you want to learn about, please let me know and I will fit that into my podcast schedule.